Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to another one of our F225 hot lap and setup guides. Yes, we return this weekend here to the Shanghai International here for the Chinese Grand Prix. Of course, Formula 2, as far as I'm aware, has never raced around this circuit. I don't know whether GP2 Asia ever did. If any of you guys remember that series many years ago. Either way, it's not the point today. The point of today's video, of course, is to provide you with a race-ready setup here inside F125. This circuit, I must admit, is actually very fun in the Formula 2 cars. In fact, I'd go as far to say I prefer it in the Formula 2 cars than what I do in the Formula 1 machines. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a couple of days ago from Albert Park, Australia, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. Of course, as always, timestamps will be linked down in the description below if you just want to head to a certain part of this video as well. Yeah, obviously, we're going to go through, I'm going to provide you with a race-ready setup, I'm going to talk you around the circuit, what gears you want to be using, what you want to be looking for, where your braking markers should be, and of course, as always, I'll leave you with a hot lap right at the very end. Shanghai seems to be a little bit broken inside this game. It's a good job I've recorded the lap because times don't seem to submit. You don't seem to get a delta either. It's all a little bit weird around here, but that doesn't matter too much. Let's head out onto the circuit. Making our way then through the final corner, ready to start a lap here from the Chinese Grand Prix. Activate the DRS, and you can slowly bring the car over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Don't bother doing it too early because there's that big bump. But you want to be eyeing up just past the 50-meter board. That is where you want to get on the brakes. But you don't actually brake too much here. Try and use the engine brake as best as you can. Cycle down to third gear quite quickly. Still not braking. Bring the car down to second and try to rotate it in towards that first curb there. Through turn 2, again, you can take a lot of curb on the inside and then just try and roll on the throttle nice and tidy on the exit. Again, making sure to keep it tidy off of the turn. Rev the car all the way out up through third and fourth gear as we make our way towards the end of sector 1. But then as we make our way over the crest of the hill, you want to brake just at the 100-meter board. From fifth gear, you want to go all the way back down to second. And again, really try to attack the inside curb there. Don't allow the car to run too wide on the exit. And again, just try to bring the car over to the right-hand side of the circuit. Up through third, fourth, and even fifth gear as we make our way up the hill. This first part of the S is completely flat out. But unlike in the Formula 1 car, you do actually want to aim slightly for the inside curb. For some reason, the F2 cars are really not that sensitive to curbs inside F125. Now, I wouldn't completely ride this curb or anything like that, but if you can just nudge onto it, it can drag the front of the car in and provide you with an extra tenth or two. Because, of course, yeah, through this S's, you want to keep the car over on the left-hand side to make sure we open up the run through the right-hander on the exit there. Making our way through then, again, you want to use the engine brake once more. Try to avoid using the actual brakes too much. Fourth gear through the first part. The car will run wide through the middle part of the corner, but then just as you keep bringing it over to the right, downshift to second gear and flick the car into the left-hander. Nice and tidy on the throttle. You want this to be one fluid motion on the exit of this double left-hander. Again, getting on the throttle nice and early, allowing the outside wheels to just drift over that curb, and then up in towards the second snail section of the lap. Again, you want to be eyeing up the 100-meter board. As soon as this curb starts, that's when you want to be getting on the anchors once more. Really try to get as much of the car over this inside curb as you can. Just be careful, obviously, that you don't get done for track limits. And then again, through this second part, avoid taking too much of it early on, but allow the car to run nice and wide on the exit there. Again, one fluid motion as you try and get the throttle down off of the corner. You cannot hesitate because of the turbo lag. It will just completely cost you speed all the way down this back straight. So you've got to make sure that when you want to get on the throttle, you are never going to have to get back off of it again. Activate the DRS though, as you make our way down here. You're going to be all the way up in 6th, just over 300 kilometers an hour as we make our way in towards the trickiest braking point of the entire lap. Again, this F2 car, they tend to be very sensitive under huge braking loads. You want to brake just at the start of this curb though, from 6th gear all the way down to second. Be careful that you don't lock up the fronts, be careful that you don't lock the rears. Attack the apex through this final, or penultimate corner of the lap, I should say. And then again, nice and smooth on the throttle there. Up into 4th gear then as we prepare ourselves for the final corner. And then you want to brake just as you go under the gantry into 3rd gear. Again, attack as much of the curbing as you possibly can there. Allow the car to run wide on the exit and activate the DRS. And there we go. that is going to be a lap of the Shanghai International. Like I said in the intro, I genuinely think this place is easier and more fun in the Formula 2 cars than the Formula 1 machines, so I'd give it a go and see how you get on as well. Let's head back to the pit lane and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Well, having a look then at our setup figures, like I mentioned out in Australia, you can afford to run some very, very aggressive setups with these F2 cars. 29-21 for your front and rear wing aero. I would say you could get away with a little less downforce if you want to, but it might make the tyre wear a bit worse around here. And as we all know, Shanghai is a bit of a tyre wear killer anyway. Again, running that lower wing gives you a bit more speed down the straights, but you want enough front wing that you've got the bite, you know, through that S section in the middle sector, through the two snail sections right at the start, and then towards the end of the lap as well. So yeah, having that bite, being able to use the engine brake is really, really important. 100-100 though on the on and off throttle diff around here. Just seems to be the way the F2 car works around this circuit. Whether it helps with the curbs, whether it helps with kind of some of the instability, I don't really know. But I tried to run a couple of other things, and this just was completely clear of anything else I attempted. Completely minimum, though, on the front and rear camber, as well as the toe angles. Again, you might want to up these ever so slightly. You could do one click away, just to help with the tyre wear a little bit more. But ultimately, I found it was costing a little bit too much time, and Formula 2 races don't tend to be as tyre dependent as Formula 1 Grand Prix. 37.4 for your front and rear suspension, 4.8 for your anti-roll bars, and then 22.49 for your ride height. Again, fairly standard stuff, what we've come to expect on this game. 54.99 for your brake bias and pressure. Again, if you're really struggling with locking up down at the final couple of corners, I would maybe up this to 55 and then lower the brake pressure down to like 97, even 96 if you're really, really struggling with it. And then last but not least, maxed out front PSI's minimum rears. Again, just helps with that traction of some of those slower speed corners. A lot of the traction zones around this circuit, of course, are steadily trying to get on the throttle, but also still trying to rotate the car around. So you have got to be a little bit careful with it, because the car will try and snap. And like I said, with these F2 cars, with the way the turbo lag is inside F125, you want to make sure that when you're off the throttle, when you're on the throttle, you are never having to come back off of it again as well. So yeah, hopefully this setup helps you out though. If it does, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourselves subscribed. We will be back in a couple of days' time out at the iconic Suzuka circuit. That one I am really looking forward to doing in these F2 cars. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys with a hot lap then, which put me, I think, just about 100th in the world around this venue.